Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down for a little mixed bag of Xbox and Bethesda news. We got a brand new Starfield leak, albeit a small one. It's a couple new screenshots, and given that I'm very aware of the origins of this leak, given that it was connected to my own Xbox podcast, I thought I'd be able to explore it a little bit deeper than other commentators, alongside shining a light on some smaller but newer details. We're also going to get into Gamescom, where Xbox and Bethesda have confirmed their presence on the show floor. The timing of it is interesting as we're trying to figure out what is Xbox's next move, right? And what will be on the show floor, and we're going to analyze Gamescom 2022 and try to figure out what will be there, of course, with opening night live as well, worth considering what kind of presence Xbox and Bethesda may have. We're also going to wrap things up by talking just a little bit about the ABK deal, a little bit more discussion focused, but we do have a brand new regulator approving of the deal as we await more on the decision between the FTC and Xbox, and I just wanted to share some added thoughts on that towards the end of the video. Like I said, it's more of a discussion. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, you're into Xbox or Bethesda news, information, conversation, discussions, do consider subscribing. It's much appreciated. And with that, let's begin the conversation with that small Starfield leak. So I want to get into the origins of this because I found it quite interesting. I saw that it was popping up a lot over on Reddit, and a lot of folks thought, oh, here we go, another Reddit screenshot leak from some anonymous user. This actually, to my knowledge, started over in the Defining Duke server. Now, for those who are unaware, Defining Duke is our Xbox podcast that myself and Lord Cognito run each and every week, and funny enough, there was someone dropping tons of screenshots in there. The user has now deleted their profile entirely and just has erased everything off the internet, it seems, but that is truly where it originated. From there, the screenshots were plucked and reshared on Twitter, and then plucked again and reshared over on Reddit. This person was attempting to get our show's attention, and the reality is when it comes to that type of stuff where it's like spreading actual gameplay that's not been publicly approved for showing, I stay clear and away from that type of stuff. As for the screenshots themselves, it's two quick small ones. One very much unexciting, but there is a small detail some people are trying to confirm through it. But the first one is the most interesting one because there's a few things to discern from it. First and foremost, we are looting what is a rare item. This seems to be a piece of armor given the resistances attached to it. This should have been obvious given that there are legendary items in the game, so it indicates there is a tier system. While we did know about rarity tiers in Starfield, what we didn't know about is this passive effect attached to the piece of equipment at the bottom there. It says O2 filter, which has minus 25% oxygen consumption. So this would naturally be good for survival on particular planets, but also would impact things possibly like sprinting around or whatever else uses stamina in the game. Now, this item that we are looting is on a UC security officer. So the United Colonies is here. We can tell this based off the Jemison planet on the bottom left corner. We can barely read that, but that means that this is near New Atlantis, which is just south of where the player is standing based off the icon on the bottom left corner. This means that at least these security officers are killable. Not a mega confirmation here, but at least something to go off of for those wondering just how much havoc we can wreak in Starfield. I imagine still quest givers will not be killable. There's also blood next to the soldier on the ground, which we've seen blood in the Starfield Direct, but it was more in like neon. So this just shows a little bit more of that in combat, which I know some people were worried about given the 2022 gameplay. I think again with the Direct that shored some things up, but still we see it here from combat. So I think it's important to note that it will be on the environment after battle is done. I saw a couple of members of the community pointing this one out, and it is a really good pickup is that when you go through the Starfield Direct and you see sometimes the loot box pop up when you're going and killing an enemy and seeing what they have on them, it wouldn't often be the items that they had equipped, which for some people they don't like. And I gotta say, as someone who really likes the interactive nature of a Bethesda Game Studios game, I personally was of the mindset, you know what, I'm not crazy about that either. But here you can actually see it would be a rare piece of armor looted off the body of a United Colony soldier, so perhaps it is lining up with what they did have equipped. Otherwise, this could turn into just random loot drops, which I liked the more human element of the loot in a Bethesda Game Studios game. Like, oh, they have a really unique weapon and I kill them and they drop it, right? And I'm sure there are guaranteed drops in Starfield, but it does seem that there's going to be a more randomized element to the loot in Starfield based off this and previous findings in the Starfield Direct. Of course, the weapon that all this killing was done with is the AK. This was something that we saw in the Starfield Direct as well being used, albeit extremely briefly, so you'll be forgiven again if you were under the assumption that this was extremely brand new. I mean, I was going through the Reddit thread and one of the top comments was like, oh, it's an AK, interesting. And a lot of people were surprised surprised by it, but we did briefly see it in action. And then the last noteworthy thing here in this first screenshot is the fast traveling through missions. This is actually a Fallout 76 quality of life enhancement, being able to go ahead and do that through your journal. It's something that the game did get right, and I am happy to see it carrying over into Starfield. Meanwhile, in this second screenshot, it is just a loading screen, which is, I think if you need an indication of how thirsty people are for Starfield, I mean, hello, this is making the rounds. We can see that the player name is Dustin. So some people thought this was Destin Legary. It is not Destin Legary at all. Some people also thought it was Dustin Furman, who's executive producer at Last Stand, where we run Defining Duke, Sacred Symbols, and all this stuff. It is not Dustin either. My man's on a little vacation right now. Leave him alone, all right? So he is not involved. Destin's not involved. Apparently, this leak came from, quote, a friend, end quote, from what we were seeing online in the server. So again, take that with what you will. It seemed kind of like a fishy sort of leak in that way. But nonetheless, some people thought based on this screenshot and the scale of it and where the UI was placed that this does confirm ultra-wide settings for Starfield day one. We have yet for that to be officially confirmed, so it is a good catch on that. But that's the quick Starfield leak. 2 screenshots, brand new, and some more insight on the origins behind it, because I did see how it all unfolded. When I first saw it, I was like, pfft. And then I saw more screenshots pouring. I was like, what is happening in here? So that's the update on that. Let's talk a bit more about what's going on with Xbox and Bethesda in just about a month or so with Gamescom. It was confirmed that Xbox and Bethesda will be attending the show floor for Gamescom 2023, and Aaron Greenberg of Xbox had the following to say: excited to be heading back to Gamescom this year to see so many faces familiar and new. Our teams have been working hard on our show floor presence and more. This will be a special year. Looking forward to sharing even more details soon. So Gamescom is August 23rd to the 27th, so you can mark it on your calendars, with opening night live, the showcase typically held by Jeff Keighley the day before on August 22nd. This is actually interesting because Xbox typically tempers expectations. That's kind of been their MO for multiple years now, but this year was a little bit of a different swagger. They had some confidence with the developer direct in January. They had really extreme confidence with their showcase this summer, and I think rightfully so. And now they're calling what is going to be another appearance at Gamescom a special year, a special showing. And what does that exactly mean? For speculation's sake, we're going to read a little bit deep into this. When we look at what Bethesda has done in the past, I'm actually going to show you some footage from the archives of a old Camelworks vlog where we went to E3 2016 together. And Bethesda does show out when it comes to the big show floor presence. That to me was one of the most memorable booths of my entire lifetime, was the Bethesda E3 2016 one. 2018, if you were there at E3, you'll know they were blaring Country Roads constantly. I don't like the song anymore because of it, but they have shown out. So that could be the difference in the terms of special. You got to look at games coming out around this time. Of course, Starfield should be on the show floor, right? We're just a week or so by that point removed from the early access period opening up. If you're not in early access, you're a couple of weeks away. And I feel like it's possible Xbox may have something playable on the show floor to generate hype. They've had yet to really be on the show floor and say, hey, something big from us is coming out soon. So that could be the special year. There's also Forza Motorsport, which I know here on this channel, we like to sleep on it. And I understand all that. It's definitely not a sexy game to talk about, at least here with my audience where we like RPGs. But this is a big game, and no doubt the European audience is big on Forza. So I imagine nice cars going to be on the show floor. They're really investing in that because Xbox has 2 big games coming out back to back. And then if you look at what Xbox did for Gamescom last year, you'll see there was a list of games from their first party like Pentiment, Age of Empires 4, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded playable. Meanwhile, they also celebrated third-party partners with A Plague Tale Requiem, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Gunfire Reborn, Inculunati, Last Case of Benedict Fox, Lies of P, Lightyear Frontier, Planet of Lana, and You Suck at Parking. They are going to bring other third-party games there, no doubt. Some people are wondering with opening night live, a special year, is there going to be any type of new trailers? I would wipe all of the Japanese marketed games at the showcase off the list for Gamescom. Personally, I think with the Tokyo Game Show this year, that's going to be one to definitely watch for Xbox. Typically, they show up and they're like, here's 2 older Japanese games coming to Xbox finally. And it's fun and all, but like this year feels like a bigger one. Whereas Gamescom, I'm looking at more of things like possibly Towerborn, as an example. When it comes to extended showings, I think of things like the more, we'll say, local teams, such as one in the UK, like Ninja Theory. There's also Playground Games, who's in the UK. I don't know if we're going to see more of Fable or Hellblade. Personally, I'd love to see more of Hellblade just to get that combat, but I think they're going to hold back for a while. I would expect this just to be a lot of demos, a lot of hands-on impressions, which is a good thing. Xbox finally has games to play. So those are my thoughts on what's going on with Gamescom following the show floor announcement, a new showcase, and all that fun stuff. So with that, we move on to our third and final talking point here, where we learned that there's a brand new approval for the Activision Blizzard deal in another regulator, this time the Competition Tribunal of South Africa, where they say, as reported by Windows Central, the Competition Tribunal of South Africa has said that while Call of Duty is popular, it is not the most popular game, so it has no concerns that Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition would go against any existing South African anti-competition laws. Right now, it does feel like the calm before the storm. We got a couple of bits of news here, which was kind of surprising. Like, things have been extremely dry since the Xbox FTC case, and Xbox fans, I know we've been eating good for really weeks and weeks on end now. There's always like a new update, unfortunately, like a new bit of drama. There's always been something to talk about in the world of Xbox, and I'm sure Xbox is going to be happy for a little bit of time to have things settle down until this decision comes to pass, which no doubt we'll be talking about here. We'll talk about on Defining Duke. For me, a lot of folks have been asking, like, Matty, what do you think is going to happen with this decision? And I've kind of just kept quiet on it, just simply due to the fact that none of us truly know. Like, even lawyers online are just saying, it's 50-50, 60-40 in Microsoft's favor. Oh, but they made the judge balk. I just feel when we read too deep into things, we get our gamer over analysis on, which I'm guilty of. It's easy to convince ourselves that things are going to go our way. The way I recommend people look at it is this. Go in 50-50. Don't expect too much. Why is that? It's politics. At the end of the day, it's politics. If there's a point to prove, an agenda to push, we've seen it beyond gaming 1,000,001 times. We don't got to name what, but it's just so blatantly obvious when an agenda is being pushed that I would just say to all of you, don't expect much, because it's possible Microsoft could be well within reason. They're completely the right, top to bottom. And guess what? This would be a great stance to make. It would look good on the resume. Yeah, it's kind of fair, but it's Microsoft. This is a big shutdown. Let's do it. I'm not holding my breath. And I feel like that seems to be the vibe for a lot of people who may be okay with the deal going through. It's like, I don't think it will. While people who don't want the deal to go through are like, yeah, it's over, man. It's over. It reminds me a bit of sports teams and how you can easily, when you're a fan of something, just like when they're struggling or when they're down or when things would be too good to be true, you're like, nah, it's not going to happen. So I think it's a little bit of self-preservation on both sides, bracing for what they think is a worst case scenario. But for me, I personally think there's a chance it goes through. I do think there is. I think Xbox did put up a good argument, but I think with the FTC, you know, politics again, man. Like, I don't know if their argument was that great. I think they kind of got made a fool of at times, but again, politics. So we'll see, but just wanted to offer some thoughts on that as we wrap things up. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, that is your Xbox Bethesda news drop for the day. So take excellent care of yourselves. Can't wait to see your thoughts on this down below, so do fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the heck out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.